Looks like we are live. And let's get our display up. Here we go. Welcome. Hey, we're starting before 10 o'clock tonight. So that's something. Thank you for hopping in. Now I've got an idea for tonight. I keep looking at this calendar on our fridge. Got a Norman Rockwell calendar, and there's a illustration that he did for the Post, Saturday Evening Post, that I keep misreading it. Like every time I look at it, I see something other than what was intended. I'll bring it over. Here we go. That's the one. Every time I see this, I think he's playing on a cell phone, and we can just swap that bird out there. Something like that. Every time. It messes with me. So I was thinking kind of two different directions with this. Be interesting to redo this image with a cell phone. And it might also be interesting to find an image or compose an image with, a bunch of people in modern day setting and clothing, who would look like they're looking down at their phones, but really they've got little birds and things like that. So anyway, I can take that two different directions, but I thought that might be kind of fun to play with that tonight. So we'll see where that goes. So I think first, I guess I'll rotate the canvas so that we've got the right aspect, or the right, ratio, I guess. Spacing on the right words. I know I'm searching for the right word. I'm almost there. We're like 50% there. We're gonna have to call it good enough. So anyway, though I think I might want to warm up a little bit. So I set down my tea, and let's do whatever it is that people do when they're making art. I suppose that in itself is kind of a little bit of an argument, isn't it? Is this art or illustration? That's right, we're going to have one of those arguments. Oh boy, looks like we don't have pressure sensitivity. Let me see. Let's reboot Photoshop and see if we can get this back up. So, real quick here. Close down Photoshop. Sometimes Chrome competes with it, so I'm going to shut down Chrome. Get Photoshop going back up again and see if we can get our pressure sensitivity back. Bear with me for a moment. Nope. Let's switch brushes. Maybe it was the brush. Huh, what do you know? I'm just a big dummy. Using the wrong brush. Alright, let's get let's get our live stream view back up again. Sorry about that, folks. Alright, so we're back. My apologies. I'd say that's a pretty smooth start, wouldn't you? Alright, we'll go rotate the canvas. Let's I'm gonna go full screen here so that I can get as much on screen as possible. And I'm just going to start trying to block this in here. This is kind of a weird brush I'm using here, where pressure sensitivity will give you a hard edge, or a hard like shape, and soft touch will give you kind of this watercolory kind of looking thing here. But let's see if we can just match this gesture. It's interesting, you know, you can have a look at how subtle things are sometimes. They don't have to be very dynamic. Like when you look at something that's got a little bit of a angle, diagonal to it, and then you start really comparing it to the rest of the image. It's not always as pronounced as we first see it to be. See it to be. What in the world? Using an awfully messy brush here. Again with the subtlety, right? Like looking at this rim, comparing it to the original, and just seeing how far off it is. All right, let's get a cleaner brush. Got the old W head flat. We'll start pulling out some of these shapes here. And I might just go with white. We'll just do this the lazy way. Well, say it's less lazy, it's more for the sake of showmanship. I don't want to be hopping back in, changing the view, making new layers and all that stuff to to make this optimally editable. I'm actually just going to opt for something simple and straightforward and easy to follow. So all that to say, I'm now painting with white rather than erasing. If I wanted this to be a cleaner file, I would not be doing it that way. Let's clean that shape up there. This I'll have to come back to here because getting this all out of whack. Position of the lips. But we'll get there when we get there. Let's get the big picture stuff. Doobie doobie doo. It's interesting the choices he makes, you know, like I like how he takes just these little bits of dark. It's just like a little speck, you know. Doesn't have to do much. We get those crevices in nice and deep. But it's always just a little wedge, you know. It's not not usually a big shape. I also wonder the tools that he was using. He took a lot of photographs, used photo reference a lot, and that nose to me looks like he's using maybe a little too wide of an angle in the lens. Of course, things are just exaggerated. You know, the size of the head. Like I've ended up making this head a little bit larger. I think he exaggerated the arms a bit to get them, looking like somebody who works works the field. You know? But when you compare it to the size of his head, it's like unreasonable. Just want to make sure we get these relationships worked out before I bring that other element in, the staff. Or that's not a staff, it's a scythe. Harvesting. And actually this whole face can probably move over. This is all like hair up here. Carry that shape on through. That's a little off there. Just bring that down. In fact, this whole angle might just be a little bit exaggerated. Hey, this is one where I've shown you the image that I'm working from, and not only could you follow along, you could beat me to the punchline. You could finish your version first. That'd be kind of fun. Let's get this face worked out here. Hmm. It's funny because I kind of have my own like shorthand for how to do ears, and his is different. Probably better. Oh, I should probably pay attention to that. Could learn something. It'd be weird. Never really. Well, I was gonna say it's never really the goal of these nights to. It's not explicitly the goal to learn, but you always do. Whenever you start approaching a project with an open mind and an eye to observe, you'll walk away with something. I'm always impressed with how, particularly the old illustrators would do that counter change thing where you have like a light value that just seems to magically shift into a dark value. And it just looks effortless. But it is not. I'll say that. We'll see how much Norman Rockwell is making up anatomy, musculature, like Frank Frazetta. Just add a whole extra set of abdominal muscles, or just to make the image work. I think Rockwell was less guilty of that, if I had to guess. Let's be honest, it's not a guess. We've seen a lot of their work. We kind of know. Okay. Again, with those massive arms, I may have actually exaggerated that even further, made the head even smaller than in the original version. This will be like the Echo Charles version of the Rockwell Farmer. Just massive watermelon bicep arms. And there's some seam lines in here. Gives you something to follow. Well, that can come up a little bit in value, but then we're going to start pushing those different directions in terms of the value. See no activity in the chat yet tonight. If you have anything to say, questions to ask, comments, I should be able to see it and respond. Definitely need to bring, I think this whole area needs to come down. So the collar, let's see, bring this around. So the collar's pretty wide. Cuts over. That little part of the suspenders, we'll bring that down. Get that angle cleaned up. Curve there. This whole area can come up. Now, we could do this with a, what do you call it? Liquefy or warp tool. But I don't feel like it tonight. I feel like just doing it manually, as the proper English would dictate. Okay, so let's get the shape and let's move this shape up a little bit here. Now this is just going to be a really thin shadow shape. That's going to demark the end of that sleeve. The sleeve's like kind of rolled up. This comes down here. Go around that elbow a little bit more. Drop the value down. And round it this way and that. There's always going to be some reflected light in there, so we'll bring some of that back in. Move this over. Just as a matter of opinion. If you painted it once, you can do it again. So if you make a mistake and you go, oh man, I'm gonna have to fix that. I'm gonna have to make all these adjustments and blah, blah, blah. Well, why not? Just go for it. Just make it happen. Spend too much time hemming and hawing over how much work it's going to be to fix it. Probably could have done it by now. I like how, Rockwell's got these, again, it's an illustrative quality to it where, like this, so like I got that shadow right there. In he's got it up here and it kind of matches the elbow. I think it's supposed to be kind of a leading line. You follow it into that shape and then he kind of breaks it up a little bit here. Kind of disappears, but you've got, this motion of the arm, or this leading line, direction of the arm going up, action line you could call it. And then this just kind of subtly pulls you back in. I like it. I like it. Okay. Though we don't have to copy this, pixel per pixel, and we're not going to. So let's get big picture worked out. I think I'm fairly happy with the gesture. We could get this little like handkerchief thing here. We could maybe figure something out there that might be might make that work a little differently, to update it. So if this is going to be a little Twitter bird here, we'll make it small. It's a little, let's see. Never used Twitter. Not once in my life. Fun fact. Having random short arguments, short sentence, snippy arguments with random people on the internet just never really struck me as a good use of my time. Not that I don't have the temperament for just being a punk, just for the fun of it. It just seems like a waste of time. And you gotta think too, someday, my children are going to read all the stupid things I said online. I think about that with this live stream sometimes. You know, not to be morbid or whatever, but like, when I'm gone, and my kids are like, you know, Dad painted every week, and he just ran his mouth. I wonder what he had to say. And then they'll be like, oh man. Ugh. That chai is delicious though. Okay. Sure, let's finish doing the scythe here. So that's like, it's gonna come through here. And then the bright side of that. I feel like I'm being way too careful with this, you know, like, not very economic. But maybe that's just being self-conscious. That's like a pin. It looks like it's got a nail or something in it to keep it in place. Let's get that turn of the form worked out there. And then we'll clean up these edges here. I have this image of Norman Rockwell in my head at it's a Rembrandt museum, like his study, or his studio rather. And this is from the Thomas Buechner book, Norman Rockwell, Artist and Illustrator, where he's making the case that Rockwell was an illustrator in a world that would not, art world would not accept him as an artist, and say his work fell into this certain vein, this certain utilitarian illustration. Category, and so it couldn't be considered art. And Buechner makes the case that, well, that's a whole bunch of baloney, and that he was both. The work was both illustrative, if you want to give it a different enunciation, but also that it was very much art in the way that he approached it and executed it. And anyway, that's part of the book. He talks about Rockwell having visited Rembrandt's studio and, having this kind of moment of, did I make it? Am I worthy of being called an artist? Which is crazy when you look at this guy's work, just how beautiful it was. Again, in terms of semantics, how beautifully illustrated it was. His execution and his communication of form and ideas, but still to be held at arm's length from the art community, the fine art community, from the gatekeepers. It's a good book if ever you find it, because partly it's making that case. It's kind of talking about that distinction in his battle through it, but then also it's a very large book with huge illustrations in it. I mean, just beautiful color reproductions of Rockwell's work. It's really great. All right, I think it's time for a second layer. So we'll pop out of our full screen here. Let's take this. I'm going to duplicate it and set it to, I was thinking multiply, but color burn. I like what that's doing. I'm going to pull it back a little bit. Well, let's actually lower the fill rather than the, and then let's do a new layer with color burn, and we will come in here and darken up our darks. Nah, it's too much. I'll bring that back a little bit. Yeah, the tilt of the head is a little bit different. But do I care to fix it? Hmm. Suppose we could add some color in. Let's go with, I guess we'll go with multiply. A little bit tame, but that'll do. We'll start with this pink. And we'll come back in with that salmony color, salmony. orange, red, scarf. Now, I don't know, but I'm assuming that was a color limitation in the printing of these Saturday Post images. My understanding is that at least in that time period, reds and blacks were the easiest, cheapest colors to reproduce en masse. That's why you see it in a lot of propaganda of all different national publications, whatever, of that time period. So, obviously, white paper, red and black ink. There's a little bit of blue going on in here, for sure. But, really subtle. Let's bring that in. It's almost more green. Somewhere in there. But, you know, someone could come along and tell me, no, Eric, you're going back too far. And actually, you know, they had all the colors of the rainbow at this point. Who knows? I could be wrong about the limitations of that time period. Well, some of these portions are kind of fun because they bounce back and forth, so you get like this kind of blue blue overall as he's got on, but then when you get to, let's go a little darker right here. I just want to push that back a little bit. Right. Anyway, when you get into the this area right here, jumps back and forth between these satisfying warm browns and blues. Looks to me like the blue is, well, it's kind of dappled in there. maybe a little, a little too blue in there. A little more saturation on the turn of the form. Here we'll go just a bit heavier for the lip. I think we'll do another multiply, just try to get some of these things into I guess that's normal. Get these into a neutralized. Maybe we'll do darker color. Just get these things a little bit flattened out is kind of what I'm going for here. So we'll just go darker color. Let's see here. I don't know if any of these are worth blocking in here, but there are a few areas where the color kind of goes back and forth, or rather the value goes back and forth. And we just brought in all these little shapes and stuff. I suspect that these were not particularly important, though I could be wrong. Because to me, that doesn't look really any better. Kind of preferred those edges being lost. Alright, let's do a new layer. We're just going to paint Manuel on top of things here. It's too much noise there. Let's simplify that. Let's go like so. And bring in these little polka dotty shapes. And we'll go a little bit darker with some of these. Throw them into that shadow. They actually are a bit tighter, like there's more of them. So now get that pattern a little denser. Hmm. bit. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna, I think, pause for a second. Give myself another drink here. After I don't know if I'm gonna get myself to a good stopping point or if I'm gonna get myself to a terrifying point with these hands, you know? Let's get some of that blue into the device, and maybe we gotta light his face a little bit with it. Be interesting to get that. Kind of a different handhold. Like he's like coddling the little bird, you know. And in this, it would be more, you know, gripping the phone. But I want a similar aesthetic, similar feel, right? Like he's being a little little too attached to this device, you know. Let's just see if we can glow from that. Let's go lighter color. This, I'm going to lock that, and we'll see about making that just a little bit more of an intense blue, just so that it reads a little bit more, just a little stronger. All right, pause here. And drink my tea. One moment. Okay. I'm debating. I could clean up that face for sure. A lot of texture that could get added in, a lot of areas that could get smoothed out, but I don't want to get lost in the weeds, you know? I want to make sure we're still thinking about this on the high level. Let me add a mask here and I'll knock back a few of these areas. Alright, back to this layer. I think we can grab some of this kind of off gray and bring it down into this area. And we're going to be mixing with this salmony color. I'll soften up that. We'll soften up this edge right here. Maybe warm it up a little bit too. I'm getting back into that Echo Charles territory. Gotta be careful. Tricky little angles in here. I don't know if that is really benefiting much at all from the change. It just seems like well, I guess we could jump back and see. I guess it is. I guess it's a little better. Marginally. Around that shadow there. All right, let's fix this face up. Talk about story of my life right there. How do I fix this face? things you just can't. I think we could tilt his head forward a little bit more. All this could come in here. Give him a little more nerd neck. You know what I mean? Again, I'm going to try to work on this as high level as possible. I don't really want to get in there too close. I mean, at some point, I really am tempted to get in and, noodle some detail, but I know better than that. I know that if we are successful at this high level, composition, which, frankly, we don't have to do much. We just have to copy the master here. But if we get it all worked out of the top big picture, then we're basically set. All the little stuff just isn't all that important. Alright, that nose is janky. That is a strange nose. So let's see if we can address that. He has it, break the plane. So he's got actually kind of coming in like so. Oh, no, almost. Let me see. It's like there, and then this comes down and then back, into the face here, and then he has the cheek bone rather. Then he has the nose extend beyond to break that plane, and I think I'm just tempted to exaggerate that more than he has, or as is very likely the case, my proportions are off elsewhere. In relation to the original. He's also got a little chunk on the chin here, which is kind of cool. Like the way that he's leaned in. He pushes that. You know, not quite a double chin, but you know, the skin folds there. As he's looking down and compressing that. I was just having a conversation today about like artwork that lives in a tradition that like pays homage to something else from the past versus you know, just being lazy and you know, stealing, borrowing things that you've seen. No, I think we should definitely learn from the old masters for sure. But I think that's a different thing than kind of seeing what they did and kind of referencing it, doing something. I'll use the word generative, like how to describe that. That continues on with the tradition and pushes forward kind of new ideas to play with and consider while being respectful of the source, you know. I can appreciate that. subtle enough. Oh, should probably finish that ear. Took just enough time to make a mess of it. And never came back to restore it. Alright, then he's got all these little diamond chunky things here. We'll just kind of go quickly with that. And the hat up top, pretty similar arrangement. Just kind of inverted. Yeah, let's get that blue up in here on the inside out of the hat. Maybe on the hair a little bit. All right, I think now we can zoom in. Let me do this as a new layer because I'm going to start getting perhaps a little more aggressive with this. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, let's zoom out here. Okay. Struggling a little bit here. Well, I think we could do like. We could definitely add texture to it. Oh, my tea is gone. We could definitely add texture to it, and we could uh, do a color balance like we always do. Just glancing over at the chat here. Got Adonis in the chat. Welcome. I just got some good news. My art got accepted at a local gallery, and I'm tabling at the convention next week. That's awesome, man. Yeah, this is a great time and a great experience. I think when you can finally get your stuff in front of people, and now you're thinking about presentation and about the interaction that you're having with the audience. So yeah, this is really that's awesome. Um, Definitely get in there and talk to people. Um, it's a skill you want to build up for sure. Just to be able to um, interact with people, but also you're kind of like understanding your audience and giving them a little bit more and a little bit of insight into what you're thinking and how you build these things. Um, but it's a dance, right? It's like a social dance. You're figuring out um, you're figuring out kind of the right mix of, you don't want to say too much, right? You don't want to talk uh, endlessly about your work or yourself. You don't want to be, um, you certainly don't want to do it in like a self-conscious, like awkward way, But at the same time, that's what they're there to see. That's what you're doing. You're showing your work, and you've got your table representing your work, and yeah, being able to talk about it and engage with people. My recommendation generally is to ask questions and kind of see what people are into, how they heard about it, how they got out there, and just kind of make it more personal, and let them direct the questions about your art. But anyway, that's some unsolicited advice. That's great that you've got the gallery spot and got the table at the convention. That's, yeah, exciting times, man. I've been focusing on not screwing up presentation for about a month. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's a funny way to word it. But yeah, you'll get comfortable with it. It comes with practice. Um, yeah, don't worry about messing it up. I mean, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like if you're self-conscious about being self-conscious, you're going to be self-conscious, right? So just go in with a strategy. Like I'd say, uh, listen to some things on, um, what other people have advice on tabling or public speaking or presentation, and then let that information just be something that you are putting into practice and trusting the process. Like um, I tend to lean towards, like, first of all, being forward about saying hello and inviting people over to your table. And one, if you can, one thing that I've tried to do is be like in the walkway and not behind the table, because sometimes you will use the table as a shield, like as a social shield, between you and the event goers. And so if you can be out in front of the table, then you can invite people in. Um, One thing I try to do is invite people to interact with the work. So if it's something that they can pick up, um, or maybe if it's like a painting and they can't, it's not something you want them touching, but it might be something where um, you might want to highlight certain aspects, or maybe just kind of tell them how things relate. Like I did a part of a show at Houghton College, or Houghton University now, where I had my work behind glass, like out in like an atrium area, and uh, the work that I selected, most of it was from these live streams, and so I could take that, just a little bit of information, and um, just give people a little bit more, as you're inviting them to look at the work and say, yeah, these are paintings that I had done over the course of a few years. I would, just kind of made a practice to be there on a Wednesday night and just paint whatever came to mind. And it was interesting how that produced work that I really enjoyed and wanted to show. And so you're kind of talking about how things relate. So anyway, think about some areas that might Well, let me put it this way. It might you might think of things that are interesting, that seem interesting to you, and then find out that that's not really interesting to the audience. So you can just kind of have the basics of like, what is this, and where did it come from? What was my process on it? What was my thought process? And you go armed with that information. You can talk about it. So anyway, that's one area, the kind of being out in front and um, giving some invitation to the work, whether that's to pick it up, to handle it, to look a little more closely, at little things, or to give them that tidbit of like how things relate, so that they can, that's kind of in another way, that's something for them to look for. Um, but then some other strategies that I've employed is like specifically the types of questions that you ask people. Um, I mentioned like how did you hear the show, or that sort of thing. But um, just as a general rule, and this may be something that just takes practice, um, I like to ask um, open-ended questions. So questions that start with what or how, because then that, for one, causes them to think about an answer and not just a yes or no, right? But then it also um, has them kind of providing more information. So like a yes or no question, or you can ask simple things like where are you guys coming in from, or something, and then that gives you context to get to know who they are. But it's also very short, right? It's like the answer is given in like a word and it's done, right? And so unless you have somewhere to go with that, that's as far as that's going. So um, that's something to think about. The types of questions, if you're asking like what kinds of I don't know, I'm going off the cuff here, but like what kinds of shows have they been to previously, or you know that might not be the best question, but those what and how questions, you might want to be thinking about some what and how questions that um, can spark some kind of open-ended conversation. So anyway, that would be my advice. Um, Good luck, man. I mean, it's exciting, and don't worry about it. It's something that um, it's a great opportunity, and as far as the like ways to get comfortable with it, just comes with doing. So get out there and do it. It's great. It's awesome that you're getting started with that. Um, what tips do you have if you're tabling alone for 12 plus hours? That's not 12 hours in a day, right? I'm assuming that's over the course of a few days. Or is that literally like 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock? And then I heard having someone help you is a huge must, and I haven't been able to find anyone to help me at my table. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Um, I'm actually trying to convince my wife to help me at Lightbox. um, just because you will want to do very simple things like go use the bathroom, get something to eat, talk to other people at their tables, right? And bringing someone with you lets you kind of tag team. Um, I took a friend of mine, Tim Pascalis, when I showed Fantastic Tanks at IluxCon several years ago. And, honestly, like everything kind of went wrong the first day. Like we didn't have all our stuff with us. because of a stupid mistake that I made, which I'll just tell you because maybe it will inform your decisions. But I had this bright idea that I would ship everything to my brother who lived nearby the convention. And so that way I wouldn't have to you know, haul it all there, right? Well, seemed like a good idea, but then the result of that was that I shipped everything to him and then got delayed leaving and didn't have enough time to go meet up with him to get all the stuff to get to the show on the first day. So I had less than half of my items at the first night, and it was a 2-day show. So what I ended up doing is I just had I had a piece of illustration, paper or whatever, that I set on the table, and I just did a little sketch, and then I wrote a note like, we're missing half of our display. Be sure to stop back in tomorrow or something like that. And then we walked around the convention and talked to everyone, went to every other table, and frankly, just like had a good time getting to know everyone else who was tabling there. So then the next day, a lot of people had said they walked past the table, were interested in seeing what we had to come back the next day, plus all the people that we talked to throughout the convention that whole night, as we went around. And, for a portion of that, we had split up, so, we checked everything out, and then we split up and individually had conversations with people. And so, the people that I had talked with, ended up coming over. The people that Tim had talked with ended up coming over. And it was a good time. And that second night, I think I sat down for like a total of 5 minutes it was a 4-hour block, I think. So, just nonstop conversation for 4 hours. It was really good. So, we missed out on the first night and made some dumb mistakes, but then there's another side to that where the whole point of these events is to meet with people who are interested in the same things. And so sitting behind a table and waiting for everyone to come to you may not be the best way to do that. If possible, you want to get out there and just have conversation with people. And so having an extra person, yeah, that was a big deal. Let's see, I did another show, and I had 2 other guys with me, and setup was great. We actually had 2 tables, like 2 different areas. So one was a table where we displayed all our work, and then another table was, this was a toy photography convention, so the other table was a diorama that one of the guys had built with the tanks, so he was basically helping people use the diorama, take photos of the products, and they could bring their own stuff, so one was like really interactive, that we weren't explicitly selling things, but we were just kind of interacting with the audience in the medium that they were all there to participate in. And then our table, where me and one other guy, Joel, we were talking directly about the tanks and the product that we were tabling for. I'm trying to think some other shows. 12 hours is a long time. You will definitely want to use the bathroom. So another thing I would say is make sure you test everything. Like if you're going to have devices for like processing payments or taking newsletter subscription, subscribers for the newsletter, things like that. make sure you know, first of all, you test everything ahead of time. So this actually happened to us at the show, the toy photography convention. Because of COVID, we had not shown for a couple years. And so this was like our first thing coming back into it. And I had a like PayPal card reader, and I was getting it set up like this again, dumb mistakes. Let me pay the stupid tax and tell you the story so that you don't repeat dumb things. So anyway, on the way to the show, so we're driving there, and I'm like getting the card reader out and getting it set up and testing payments. Well, turns out in the in the year or two that we had not shown, they discontinued that product. So, and to get a card reader, it usually takes a couple weeks, for them to send you one and get it all set up. A week at best. Certainly not, within 8 hours. So, so that was a really dumb mistake that we made, or that I made, and what we ended up doing for that was just setting up the items in PayPal, and then when people bought the products, we just had them PayPal us with their phone, which was easy enough. But it would have been a lot nicer to be able to take payments in whatever format people had available to them. So yeah, that's definitely something to pay attention to make sure that all your payment processing is like figured out and tested before, I would say like 2 weeks before the show, if possible. That way, if anything's wrong, you can, order a new card reader or something like that. If excuse me, if the show is closer than that already, there are other methods. Obviously cash, but then just setting up like excuse me, QR codes or even just having the PayPal information if you're using PayPal as a processor or Venmo or whatever. Those can be pretty quick to set up. Yeah, let's see what else. Definitely want to. I would mock up your table ahead of time. So like if they've sent you the dimensions of the table, set it up. Set it up at home. Of course, like setting it up in Blender or setting it up in. We did Gravity Sketch, which was like a VR thing, but we got the dimensions of all the things that we had, and then the dimensions of the table, and then assembled it in Gravity Sketch, and then with that being VR, you can kind of like walk around it and see like how. Just pre-visualizing how people could interact with things. So that's something you could do if time permits. And yeah, I would say generally, like my goal was just to get people to be hands-on with things. So like if you have your work in in like a book form or something, where they can just scroll through things. When I showed the tanks, I brought a sheet of glass, so it was it's like tempered glass that I have for my drafting table. I disconnected it from my table, and then it has like little feet underneath it. So anyway, that was just about perfect, where you could have a tablecloth for the table. Could lay all of my original sketches on the table, put the glass on top of that, so that protects all the images. But then I can layer images on top of that. So then on top of the glass, you can have other things like more drawings, your sketchbook, anything that stands up, to display things vertically, and then all the 3D stuff, so like the 3D printed tanks and all that sort of thing we had on top of there. So that was like a real quick way to display all of that. So like, well, That's not the right way to describe it. Not a quick way to display it. I mean a quick way for the audience to consume it all at once, right? Like, oh, I see the sketches, I see the models, I see the painted illustrations, all in one place, and I can pick things. I can pick up the models and look at them, and So, um, I would definitely recommend getting people to touch the artwork if you can. If it's an oil painting, that sort of thing, I know you can't. But and I'm sure there are artists who would disagree with me with that, or like cringe with people touching their work. But in my opinion, that creates this connection where people have to decide: am I going to continue digging into this? Like if you have something in your hand, like a sketchbook, you're either going to start thumbing through that sketchbook and looking at everything, or you're going to decide this isn't for me, and you're going to set it down and move on. And and that's okay, because you're not trying to win everybody. You're trying to introduce yourself to people who are interested in what you do. And so that forces that decision pretty quickly. And also, I think people make a connection with the work. Like when they pick up these little model tanks or whatever, like you would be amazed at. So early on, I wasn't as what's the word? I hadn't quite fully figured out the 3D printing stuff, so that there were little glitches and things that would break off or whatever, right? And so someone would pick up a model and they'd look at that one, and then they'd decide they were going to buy it, and then I would tell them, oh yeah, that one's got like a little broken, like one of the rails broke off on that one. Here, let me pick out another one. And I pick out one that was like perfect. And like without fail, they would buy the one that they were holding because they had already like made this connection with it. It's an interesting thing. But I would say that's secondary to like just initiating the conversation. And that's probably enough. That's probably enough to go off of. You're gonna do great. It'll be fun, and I hope you keep doing these things, right? Because I think the more you do it, obviously, these shows can be a little costly, and they can also kind of they can sometimes be disheartening. And I'll say this because I think it's worth saying. There's a lot of things going on at these shows. There's like you're getting connected with like-minded people, so other artists. You're getting connected with the audience that's already like warm traffic, so it's not like throwing stuff on the internet and just hoping people like it. It's like these are people who are already interested in art. Like this is what they came for. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to buy something, but it means that these are the people that you should be connecting with, and at least if you can make a connection and you see them again, or you make a connection like you have a good conversation and they sign up for your newsletter, but they don't buy something that day, you're beginning to build the audience of people who know you and may buy something later or may recommend you to someone else who would buy your work. All right, so that part's great and important. But I think that a lot of artists leave shows feeling a little disheartened that they didn't sell as much as they wanted to, or like you'll tell yourself like, well, it was great, it was good marketing, but the numbers don't always work out, like between it, depending if you have to travel, your travel costs, your lodging and all that stuff, like it could end up becoming expensive, and that can be disheartening. But part of it too is psychological, where the show is so much fun, and there's this effect just to be aware of, where like when you have like that natural high, things come back down, like they like crash lower than your baseline. So you're like always. This is kind of like I was noticing this with my kids. Like they went off to summer camp, right, and they just have a great time. And then like that Saturday after they get back, it's just like they miss all their friends. Part of it's the fact that you've actually, the thing's over and you're sad about something good being over. But there actually is like there's something going on in the brain chemistry where you're actually just feeling a lower low than your baseline because you're coming off of the high, right? And so you get the same effect when you do these shows because it's super awesome to like meet all these people and do these sessions and like have people looking at your work and and then you're like exhausted and it's over and you come down off of that high and you're just like, I'm never doing this again. This sucks. So just be aware that like you might feel that. Just let it pass and think about it like a day later. One thing I would definitely say, I know I'm like just I said I'm done, but like 100% do this. Write everything down. Write down, at its basic level, make sure you inventory everything that you're bringing and your price points, and so that you understand what you have available, and as a part of that, when I did that first show, after the show, I tallied everything up, and I was like, oh, I didn't even bring enough inventory to really make this worth it financially. I think it was definitely worth it in terms of the connections that we made and introducing the artwork to people. But if I had thought about it ahead of time, I would have brought more stuff, and I think we would have done better. So that's just the very basic level of that, is like inventory everything ahead of time, have a good idea of your price points, and see that you have different price points, because some people are going to come there looking to spend $100 and some people are going to be there looking to spend $10 and so on and so forth, right? So you want to make sure you have different things in different price points. But then after it's done, just like write everything down. Write down like, who did I meet? Why was that? Like, what was relevant about that? What strategies worked? What things do I want to work on in future shows? I think I should stop there. I'm just like, I feel like I'm just hitting you with the fire hose. So I think I've said enough that would be that would take enough time to work on those things. But yeah, man, I'm excited for you. It's great. All right, I should probably stop here. It is 12:17 Eastern Standard Time. We've got a little Norman Rockwell homage going on here, and it's good. It's good. Thanks for bringing that up, and hopefully that's helpful to you, and perhaps anyone who's watches this in the future and has a show coming up. I hope that was helpful and not just an Eric Elwell rant. Anyway, that is it for tonight. Thank you for joining in, and have a good night.